I'm going to try and figure out over this next couple of days what's wrong with this Land Rover. It's a 1984 2.25 diesel, and it's a bit of a conundrum. Can't really figure out what's wrong with it. It's recently had a rebuilt engine. Not so long ago, it's literally done 10 miles, but can't get it to run right. It's giving, when you flip the throttle, it occasionally gives clouds of white smoke, which suggests sunburnt fuel, and that the fuel timing is retarded. But then you've got to blip the throttle again and it'll give black smoke, suggesting that it's advanced. But then you go to drive it and it'll give blue smoke, suggesting that it's burning oil. And we can't, it's an head scratcher to me, so I can see me having to completely rebuild the engine again from scratch, which isn't a major problem. They're not massively expensive to repair, they're not complicated or anything, so it's not the end of the world, but I'd rather not have to do it if I can. So first things first, I'm going to do a compression test on it. It's always a good baseline, so you know what you've got. It can give you a suggestion if there's a cylinder down, if rings are gone on a cylinder or something like that. So it's easier to do now before you pull the engine out than it is after. First things I'll do is get this extremely heavy spare wheel off, get the bonnet off, so I'm not smacking my head. I'm 6'2", so it's hard work when you got a bonnet on, because you do tend to cave your head in. But as you can see, I mean, it's a lovely Land Rover. Just can't get it running right. So, right, I'll pull that apart and see where we go from there. I'll come back in a bit. Right, bonnet's off, stashed away, spare wheel. Next job is glow plugs. Simple enough. If they've been in there a while, if they're really old and rusted, it might be worthwhile, if the engine's in running state, to get a bit of heat into it first. It can ease with getting them out. These are brand new, so they should come out relatively easy, hopefully. So it's 8mm. Take the little knot off the end, 17mm on the glow plug, and hopefully they'll come straight out. Hopefully. It's always advisable as well, disconnect the battery. You've got a potentially live wire there. I always tend to disconnect the battery and take the key out of the ignition when doing things like this, because it's better to be safe than sorry. I might also take this intake pipe off just to get it out of the way, give a bit more access. I'm going to get the tools and get onto that. So let's get this out of the way. That's loose, I know it's loose. I've been tinkering around with it already. Connect it from there. What I will also probably do is just remove the airbox, the air filter, because it's, the more access you've got, just the easier it is. So let's get that out of the way. Lift that out. Careful not to tip it because it's got oil in it. The access now, it's just so much easier to get the stuff out of the way. I know the oil cap's off. I'll go and get that in a second, put that on, it's not risking dropping stuff down there. Another tip, well, a tip should I say, wing protectors. If you've got fresh paint, they're an absolute must. I mean, if you're in your battered old Land Rover that's got coffee cup stains all over the top of it, it don't really matter, but I don't want to ruin the paint on this one, if I can help it. Right, next job, 8mm. Simple enough. Before I do, bowl to put things in, need that. Doing a compression test, you need to take all of them out. You need the engine to spin over pretty freely, so you need as little resistance as you can on the cylinders as you test each one. So if you're doing it on a petrol, it's also worth remembering that you want to do it with the throttle wide open. Get as much air in there as you can. It's no good trying to test it if you can't suck air in. With the diesels it doesn't matter so much, but obviously I'll take that butterfly off the front brake servo, so that's not restricting airflow, because that can give you a false reading. Right, that wire, because I will be turning the ignition over and overturning the engine over, and make sure that's out of the way. You can wrap some electrical tape around there or anything. You don't want that touching anything at all, and risking shorting anything out. So that's just off there. I'll call this. Come on. Get it all out of the way. There we go. Doing a compression test is something you can just do at home. It's not, you don't need to go to the garage to do a compression test. It's a simple, all I'm going to use today, I brought this quite a few years ago, is cheap eBay compression tester. They're not going to be pinpoint accurate. It's not. I mean, it's 30 quid or something, whatever it was. They're not going to be as accurate as your hundreds of pounds compression testers, but it will give you an idea. It'll put you in the ballpark, and it will tell you if a cylinder is really low. But as a lot of you guys, that's all you're likely to have. That is what I'm going to use. Go on, let's get 17mm spanner. There we go. It's easier on these to use a spanner that's at a slight angle. It's a lot easier to get in there. Let's put you on top of the battery. You might be able to see it a bit better. If it'll stand there. Oh, there we go. Try and force it. You're not trying to shear it off. It's too easy to snap these. Go that way. That should come out by hand now. It's just so easy to snap them, and then you're in a whole other world of hurt. Then check that it's not all knackered up on the end. Actually, they're fairly new, these, so this should be all good. And it starts perfect. It starts absolutely perfect. And I don't think it's going to be down on compression. It's not going to be perfect on it. It's had new rings in it. The valves have been reground or reseated, lapped in, whatever you want to call it. That one's all good. And it's not even bed in, it's not even run in yet. Right, we'll get down to this one. Use the ring end on that one. So, right, I'll finish getting these out. There's only one more left. And I'll get hooked up. Right, so what we need to find is one of these that matches that. As you see, they're all different sizes for different vehicles, and it's that one we need. Same thread, same everything. And all you need to do, I'll move this out of the way, is screw it in. Make sure you screw it in by hand. Don't go in with the spanners, the ratchets, full ball straight in there. You might end up, if you've got the wrong thread on, if you got the tool with the wrong thread, you will end up knackering something up. So knackering the threads up, and it's a bit awkward to get into this one with that pipe. And then just nip it. If you're not sure, well, I've used this one a few times before, so I know this is the right one. If you're not sure, once you put it in, turn the engine over by hand slowly, a few rotations, or at least 4 strokes, or at least 4 rotations you want to do. If you've got a cranking handle, that makes things easier. Just so you know nothing's amiss. So we get this cheap ass tester. I don't even know if this thing still works, to be fair, but... and click it on. We've got that there like that. This is because it's diesel. If you don't want diesel flying out everywhere, a good tip is to pull the stop lever so it's not pumping diesel through at the same time. And we'll now see what we get. See if I can put that where you can see it. Hopefully the camera won't fall over while I do it. You know what does help? Having the key helps. Key, that'll do. It's also quite important to make sure you've got a good battery on there. You want it to crank over as fast as you can get it. Now we're aiming, hopefully, over 400. Over 400 psi would be good. I think standard they were supposed to have 425, but we'll see what we get. What we got? Just over 400, so that's not bad. It will run perfect on that. You can smell the diesel because I didn't. Whoops, this camera stand's not very good. I didn't pull the stop lever, so there's mists of diesel in the air. But let's do the other ones. Right, as you can see on this one, I've had to disconnect the fuel pipe going to the first cylinder, so pulling that stop lever is essential now because that will just squirt diesel everywhere, but it's the only way to get access in. I've also got an angled joint on there. Get my hand out of the way, you might be able to see. Now on cheap compression testers, there's no guarantee that these seals down there are any good. It's going to be an airtight. I mean, you can see it wobbling around, so it will get you a ballpark, but don't take it as gospel. That's what the pressure is. If you want a true reading, you need to get a really expensive one, but like I said, all I'm after is a ballpark figure on this now. Let's see how we go. So 380 on that one. It's not ideal. Again, I don't think that would affect how it works, but we'll see how the rest goes. Cylinder 3, see how this goes. What we got? Just short of 420 again, so that's good. That's really good. There is quite a drop though, 380, 420 is a 40 psi difference. I'll do some research on what is sort of a minimum, what the imbalance could be, because you can drop a bit on each cylinder, but I can't remember off the top of my head how much or what percentage you can drop, so I'll have a look. Right, cylinder 4, see where this one gets us. What we got from that one? Just short, so it's probably about just short of 390. Right, so we're not massively low on compression. The distribution pump is rebuilt completely. We've got a new lift pump, we've got new timing chain, all the timing marks line up. So where does that leave us? To be honest, I'm a bit stumped. What I'll do now, next job, or the next video, will be pull the manifolds off. It was burning oil quite heavily. So if you pull the manifolds off, especially after it's been running, I mean it's hard because they'll be hot, but it'll give you an idea. You should be able to see inside, and you might have oil in one of the exhaust outlets, or one or two, or all of them. So it's worth a check. Like this is recently built, so it's a 10-minute job. If you're doing it on an old engine that's 90,000 miles and never been rebuilt and all that lot, it's a bit more tricky because the bolts snap. A lot of the time they've been replaced. This has the I think the brass nuts on it, so they don't corrode and seize up. But be prepared to have to buy new ones. And if you do, see if I can see down here, them ones, because they don't rust, they don't seize up, they don't expand and with heat, and they're only cheap. I mean, I think it's pennies, so buy them. Oh, we've also got reconditioned injectors. This is what's puzzling me. It should run perfect, but it don't. So I'm wondering now if valve stem seals come loose or valve guides worn excessively or something, because I know they wasn't replaced. But I'll do that in the next video. So if anybody's got any suggestions, so let us know, because I'm stumped.